A global market crash, or downturn if you're hopeful, is a big challenge to the O'Farrell State Government and its new Treasurer, Mike Baird. The government had already postponed its first state budget to September. The Cabinet Razor Gang is now in place behind closed doors, and there's informed speculation that the budget will contain some necessary horror. We asked Treasurer Mike Baird to our studio a short time ago to talk about what is to come. Treasurer, welcome back. We now face GFC Mark II. The federal budget is in deep deficit. The state budget is in a black hole, according to you. How do we get out of this one?
Well, Quentin, there's no doubt it's a challenge. I mean, what we're facing at the moment is some very difficult economic circumstances. What we're seeing move across the world, it's undoubtedly going to impact us here, and indeed it has. I mean, as we've already seen, there's been a softening of revenue in New South Wales. We are forecast, which we inherited, a row of deficit to the tune of over $5 billion. And with that in place and that left behind, together with what we're seeing rolling across the globe, it's a very challenging position. So the first priority that we have to do is to get the budget back in control. We need to control our expenses, and we're certainly not seeing that and haven't seen that in the last 16 years.
Well, Eric Roosendahl, the outgoing Treasurer, contests the black hole argument, but we'll see, I suppose, in the budget papers that come up next month. Do you acknowledge, though, generally, Treasurer, that New South Wales is stalled in the slow lane of Australia's two-speed economy?
Well, I think it has for the last decade, Quentin.
And there's nothing we can do about that, is there, even though you and Mr O'Farrell are now in government? We've got to tell the public there's nothing we can do. It's a structural problem.
Well, I don't believe that. I think there's a lot more we can do. I mean, you have seen for the last 10 years that New South Wales has had the lowest jobs growth, the lowest economic growth, the lowest confidence across our businesses, and that's been a consistent trend. And what we need to do is to turn that around. And how do you start to do that? Well, first and foremost, you need to put confidence back. And putting confidence back into the economy, businesses in particular, is a tough thing.
Getting confidence back in the face of the GFC and the collapse of the equities market now, as you say, is going to be much harder.
It is.
So what are the... Let me go through some of the things that you've done. Yeah. You have delivered on your payroll tax concession, haven't you, to try to get 100,000 new jobs over this term. But unemployment has peaked up. It's come up, historically low, but it's come up. We're still in the hole.
Well, I think that's right, Quentin. Anyone that thinks that we can turn this around overnight is just not right, or is kidding themselves. This is going to be a long process. But as you rightly articulated, you know, what is one of the ways that we turn around the growth and the employment and the confidence? You start to make New South Wales an easier place to do business. You start to make it more competitive, which is why we put front and centre our Jobs Action Plan, and that is for the first 100,000 jobs that come into the economy for the O'Farrell government is going to be, in essence, payroll tax-free, a $4,000 rebate. Now, thank goodness that incentive is there, Quentin, because at the moment we are seeing a lot of pressure across small, medium and large businesses on employment, and we hope that incentive counteracts some of that headwind that has grown up. But that is the start. If you make the New South Wales economy more competitive, that starts to drive capital, drive confidence, and we think that is a big part of the way we can start to turn this around. But it's very, very difficult, Quentin, because at the moment we're facing a lot of challenges.
You're lowering our expectations, I know. There's starting to be a buzz, Treasurer, through the public sector in your state budget preparations that you are looking for substantial, across-the-board savings, cuts. Is that right?
No, what we're looking for, Quentin, is to control our day-to-day expenses. So over the last 4 years of the Labor government, you saw expenses average go up by about 7.6%. Going forward, the previous state Labor government told us that they were going to markedly reduce that, but their history would suggest they couldn't do that. When revenue is going at about 5% growth and anticipated to fall, which is what we've seen at the moment, and I know that Labor can't get their head around the fact that there is a $5 billion blowout on the bottom line, and that's what we're dealing with. But when you have that particular pressure, then what you need to do is to bring the expenses under control. Okay. And that's what we're going to do. You have to control your day-to-day expenses, or you're not in control of your budget.
Let me attack it this way. My informants tell me that big government agencies like Rail Corp and RTA, as it has been named, are being asked to find 7 to 7.5% in savings in operating costs. Is that true?
Well, I mean, you've had a number of treasurers sitting in this chair before a budget, Quentin, and I'm sure you know that no treasurer is going to confirm what may or may not be in the budget.
No, I'm not. I'm asking
in the lead up,
is the quantum 7 to 7.5% right in these government agencies?
No. What I will say is that not just those agencies, but every agency across government,
every other government department, education, police, welfare, and health. Is there a 5%, 7% figure on it?
Well, I'm not going to talk percentages, Quentin, but we unashamedly are saying that we need to control our day-to-day expenses. I mean, if you remember what Michael Lambert recently said, he said the budget position that was left behind, the state of New South Wales was borrowing to pay its wages. Now, that's just not sustainable. And when you see the global events and the challenges for places like the US and other countries in the Eurozone that are being dictated to in terms of what they can and can't do, you need to control your budget. And that's what we've asked. We've asked all agencies to play a role in that, to rein in expenses so we can actually control our day-to-day.
OK, you've just abandoned the no forced redundancies, the unattached list. All these unattached public servants are out the door or have got to find a meaningful role within the public sector. You've changed that policy. That can only mean now that we can expect more redundancies through the budget process and the restructure which comes, and the first term of a first budget of a 4-year term.
No, I mean, what it means, Quentin, is, and we did argue for this...
Well, come on, let's confront it. There's going to be redundancies, aren't there?
Well, no, for a considerable period, and we said this in opposition, we didn't think it was right that the state purse, the public in New South Wales, were funding people who didn't have a job. And that's what that policy was about, and we have acted on that, and we sort of
you've delivered on your mandate. All these unattached public servants have got to find a job or get out. We'll accept that.
And we just spoke about the need to actually control our budget, and that is one of the savings measures that we have done, and we certainly think was well overdue.
You've had your payroll tax cut with a cost of $400 million. You've cut poker machine tax for the clubs at a cost of $300 million. You're giving $7,000 as an incentive to people to relocate to regional towns. Macro cost $280 million. Why are you giving money away when revenues are going down?
Well, Quentin, what we're doing is, which is something that we haven't seen in this state for a considerable period, is we are keeping our promises. You're the Treasurer and you're meant to be arguing, say, well, look, Barry, please, we can't do this now, we're in a hole. If you've got a black hole, why are you giving this money away? Well, if you look at those particular two of those examples you used, I mean, the Jobs Action Plan, I'd be arguing that's exactly the sort of stimulus a government should be doing right now. It should be providing confidence, incentives into businesses to not only maintain employment, to increase it against some of the headwinds. So that is absolutely the policy you should be doing. And in relation to clubs, I mean, that is a 50,000 group industry. There's a number of clubs that have been forced to close or amalgamate in the previous years, and we certainly think that there is a benefit in supporting that. And it's a balance.
We should look at it as stimulus, eh?
Well, both of those support across the economy, and at the moment, you need to provide confidence into the economy, and we think that those measures help.
Is State Cabinet considering the privatisation, the sale of the poles and wires, the electricity transmission system?
I can honestly say no, Quinn. So
at this particular moment.
That's a very easy one, and we have said consistently that we're waiting for the electricity inquiry, and that is sort of going through at the moment, and that is something that we very much look forward to, because, again, I mean, householders are under pressure. We're seeing the electricity price hitting every single household and businesses and the competitiveness of this state. We need to understand what is the way forward, because what was left behind was a mess, and we need to understand how do we get out of it and how do we put the maximum downward pressure on electricity prices. And I think it's about time that we heard from experts rather than politicians on that issue.
We await your budget with great interest, Treasurer. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Quentin.